All right, Rob, let's get into it. Caitlin Clark, I mean, my goodness, every time she turns around, she's in
Hot
in
water.
the middle of some
There's
heavy
something, right,
conversation, you know. So our friend Jim Trotter, I don't know if it was yesterday, asked her a question. I guess, you know, I'm not on the social media like that, Rob, where I'm reading all the tweets. Yeah, your tweets about, no. I do my thing on it, but I'm not like following every little thing. And apparently there are people that have been using, not really in the traditional media, Rob. I don't think, although we called to tab. We took Chicago Tribune to task. That was
that was out of bounds.
Terrible.
That was out of
racist.
bounds. Yeah,
it was racist.
It was out of bounds.
It was terrible. Absolutely. And but Jim Trotter asked Caitlin Clark about her name being used to I guess promote or the word he used was weaponized to promote certain ideologies or whatever. Here's what she said.
It seems no matter what you do or what is done to you, it becomes a topic nationally. And a lot of times it becomes divisive. I wonder from your standpoint how you feel about people using your name in whatever culture wars or whatever wars they're fighting. How do you feel about that?
It's not something I can control, so I don't put too much thought and time into thinking about things like that. And to be honest, I don't see a lot of it. Like I've said, like basketball is my job. Like everything on the outside, I can't control that, so I'm not going to spend time thinking about that. People can talk about what they want to talk about, create conversations about whatever it is. But I think for myself, I'm just here to play basketball.
All right, so that's her first response in the morning, I guess, at the shoot-around, Rob.
So that was Jim Trotter, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they just got a breaking news story. The NFL has fired him again, Roger Goodell. So, I mean, I'm just saying.
All right, so then in the afternoon or evening, she was asked about it again, Rob, and she had a different response. Here we have that. Here she is, if we have it.
Caitlin, I know you mentioned that, you want to focus straight on basketball. We definitely respect that. When, just to ask you directly, when people use your name for racism, misogyny, whatever, what is your response to that specifically?
Yeah, I think it's disappointing. I think, everybody in our world, deserves the same amount of respect. The women on our league deserve the same amount of respect. So people should not be using my name to push those agendas. It's disappointing. It's not acceptable. But yeah, I mean, this league is a league I grew up admiring and wanting to be a part of. Like, some of the women in this league were my biggest idols and role models growing up and helped me want to achieve this moment right here that I get to play in every single night. So just treating every single woman in this league with the same amount of respect, I think is just a basic human thing that everybody should do. Like, just be a kind person and treat them, how you would want to be treated. And I think it's, very simple.
All right, Rob, what are your thoughts on those? Two different answers.
Yeah, I
Same
just
day.
She's 22 years old. I don't expect her to be at some advocate, Chris, activist. I mean, is what the word I wanted to use. Activist. Like they're asking you a question about some of these things, stuff that she hasn't even seen or she doesn't already know. How's she supposed to respond to everything that's attached to her name? Do you know what I mean? I think it's an impossible scenario and situation. And I think after she realized, like, okay, what's going on, and then she just made a kind of a blanket statement that everybody should be treated fair and equal and all that kind of stuff. That's what you say. I don't expect her, Chris, to stand on a soapbox. I don't expect her at 22 years old, thrust into this, to have all the world's answers and solutions and whatnot. And I'm cool with that. I'm cool with it.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. First thing I thought about when this story was developing, Rob, was remember when even before she got into the league, before she got drafted, there were people saying, okay, is she going to resurrect the WNBA like Michael Jordan did the NBA, right? And she's the Jordan of the WNBA. She's the Jordan of women's basketball, all that stuff. And it's interesting, Rob, because there have been a lot of similarities in the early parts of their career. Now, Jordan took the league by storm immediately. She hasn't done that. But as far as, players in the league testing him and her, we know about the alleged ice out of Jordan in the All-Star game. And, she's obviously, which I don't have a problem with, the veterans going at her, making it tough on her in her first year as a rookie. And even if there's resentment there because of all the attention she's getting and they have put in this work and haven't gotten it. And then we know, Rob, Michael Jordan was not outspoken about social
He was
issues,
criticized.
and a lot of us wanted him to be, right?
100%.
As much as we love Jordan as a player, I do wish he was more outspoken about African-American issues.
Chris, he had the platform. He had the platform. And although it's not a real quote attached to Michael Jordan about Republicans buy sneakers too,
right?
Mike could have said some things, got some things done, and he didn't want to get involved in that. And he was criticized for it. Nobody gave him a pass.
Yep.
Because they thought that Mike had a platform and could have, not on everything. I said the same thing about Tiger Woods. Not on everything, but Chris, the thing that disappointed me about Tiger Woods was like at Augusta when they didn't have any black or female members. That's something that he could affect, not school admissions and all these other things, but he could have easily said, until you'll start letting in black members and females, I'm not going to play at Augusta. How long would it have taken for them, Chris, to bring in black members and females? Am I right? That's power.
Well, and look, we don't have to even explain that African Americans have been historically, just to put it lightly, discriminated against in this country, and it still goes on today. So when you do have African Americans who are, I'm going to use the word untouchable,
right?
Like,
and that's
LeBron
the right word.
James,
That's the right
Michael
word.
Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods.
They can't do anything.
They were so good, and they're so irreplaceable that they can really advocate and get things done. Because, like I say it all the time, Rob, we know Colin Kaepernick knelt down, for the anthem, and, it got taken all sorts of ways because he really meant that out of respect, but he obviously spoke out. He was taking a stance against police brutality, which is a good stance. And he obviously, his career suffered for it. I don't know that, he wasn't a star at that point anymore, but he certainly was good enough to be in the league. And he suffered because he spoke out. I've always said, Rob, if Patrick Mahomes did that, very exact same thing that Colin Kaepernick did, there's obviously he'd be in the league.
Yep.
And it would have, heck, it might have become a trend for all we know. And it did to a little degree with Kaepernick, but it would have been totally different. Patrick Mahomes is irreplaceable. So he can speak out, and I'm not jumping on, I'm just using him as an example. But if you're that level, you can really get things done for your people who have been historically discriminated against in this country. So you're right, we do want that done. All right, Rob, we're talking about Caitlin Clark and, her people kind of calling on her to speak out, I guess, about some of the things that are being attached to her. No fault of her own. But I'll say this, Rob. So in the morning, she had a very bland answer. In the afternoon, evening, she addressed it with a little more vigor. I do think, and a lot of people might not agree with this, Rob, or believe it. First of all, I do think it's very possible. When she said, I don't see it, I believe her in that. I don't know what her social media habits are, and
Chris, she's such a big star. There's no way she sees everything. It's just not possible.
Right. Like
this is not like Patrick's Twitter where there's 4 people on it. I'm sorry, Patrick.
No, but it's true. Not about Patrick, but I obviously put stuff out on social media, but I'm not in my phone looking at social media all the time. I don't know what people are saying about me generally. I see some comments, some responses.
Right, once in a while.
But I don't,
right.
I don't. And she may very well be there. And I'll say this, Rob, if I was a professional athlete, I definitely would not be all up in my mentions and seeing, you know what I mean?
No, I would be at the bank counting my money. That's what I'd be.
There you go. But
I
I certainly wouldn't be trying to see what everybody's saying about me. You don't need all that stuff in your head. But anyway, so I think that's legitimate. I do think before she spoke in the evening that someone spoke to her and either said, look, you do need to address this in a certain way. It's being spun negatively, whatever what you said this morning is being spun or taken negatively, whatever it is, but you need to say something, more substantial. Or they may have told her, Rob, look, you may not have seen it, but this is what's out there. This is what people are tweeting and associating you with and using. This is why I use the word weaponize. And then she made a legitimate statement in the evening, Rob. Now, when she made her morning statement, one of the players in the WNBA who she had a little beef with, I guess, light beef in the game with the Connecticut Sun guard Dejanay Carrington. And so Carrington posted this, Rob, on social media after Caitlin spoke. She said, dog, how one cannot be bothered by their name being used to justify racism, bigotry, misogyny, xenophobia, homophobia, and the intersectionalities of them all is nuts. We all see the blank. We all have a platform. We all have a voice, and they all hold weight. Silence is a luxury. I got comments on that. Do you want to comment on that, Rob, first?
Yeah, I just think it's a combination. And, Chris, I think there's two things. There's two worlds we live in. And unfortunately, we have a bigger burden because we live it every day. It's a part of our life. And for other people,
African Americans.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Whereas other people, that's not on the top of their list or what's happening as much. And I'm not making an excuse. I'm not. But I just...
I hear what you're saying.
It's not that I'm not making an excuse because wrong, but that doesn't mean because you're conscious or you see everything or whatever it is that you know for sure that she's seen some of this stuff and has turned her back on.
Well, I know we know for sure she probably hasn't.
And that's what I'm saying, Chris. That's different. That's different to me. If somebody told you about some incident that everybody in the world saw it, and you were
that's a good point.
Totally oblivious to it, right?
Right.
Then I'm going to assume that you rather not, or you're ignoring it. Okay, that's what I'm going to assume.
Right. Nah, that's a fair point. And I would say this. I mean, Dejanay Carrington mentioned a lot of different things, and then she says intersectionalities, like they're all related and in agreement. Rob, these are nuanced situations. You may agree on some of these things and disagree on others. You and I pretty much agree on racism and different issues regarding racism. We disagree on certain things regarding sexuality.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, are they saying every WNBA player now, certainly we want you to speak out about racism or have a certain viewpoint that all human beings are created equal, should be treated
the same. Absolutely.
No, not based on race, all that stuff. It should be across the board, but particularly in the WNBA or the NBA where it's their leagues that are, led by black people. But again, it should be across the board. But some of the other stuff, people are going to disagree. I mean, you may have one view. You may be left wing, so to speak, on racism, and then you may agree more with right wing on certain other things. And so you can't assume everybody has the same views. And when I saw, Rob, a lot of the comments today on television, it was like some former players or players in the WNBA were saying advocacy is a part of our league. And we advocate, we advocate for this, we advocate for that, so that's been a big part of our league. And so you do have a responsibility to speak out. And I'm like, Rob, I've said it before. This is not new from me. We like when people speak out, or athletes in this case, or entertainers or whatever. We like when they speak out about something we agree with them on.
Right.
I love it when LeBron speaks out against racism or when what Kaepernick did and all that. But if somebody's saying something I disagree with, I may not really be feeling it. And I'm saying, what if like they want Caitlin Clark to be an advocate And certainly, again, she should be an ally in the fight against racism. But, Rob, what if she was incredibly outspoken about abortion and she was against abortion? And she's pro-life in that regard. Do you want her to be outspoken on that? Because what if that's her viewpoint? I'm just throwing something out. What if she's very outspoken on, I don't think biological men should be playing sports against biological women? Do you want her to be outspoken about that? And I've heard the WNBA today is diverse, it's inclusive. Well, you got to be inclusive of people with other views sometimes too. So you can't just assume everybody in that league is going to have the same views on some of these topics. And that's where this speaking out and all that can be different. There was one girl, Rob, she went on ESPN years ago and said she retired from the WNBA because she felt discriminated against because she was straight. That was on ESPN. And so everybody in the WNBA is not going to have the same viewpoint on some of these topics that I'm talking about. Dejanay mentioned, and the intersectionalities, they're connected, but they can be connected in different ways for different people. So that's my comment on it. But, she's going to learn, Rob. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. She, hopefully she'll educate herself on some things and maybe, she will decide to use that for advocacy. I do say, Rob, white athletes, I think it'd be great. And I would encourage them to study these things, especially when they're in a primarily black sport, and be able to speak out about it, because we do need allies, if you will, when fighting against racism, who are part of the majority culture.
Well, we saw that with Aaron Rodgers. You remember, Chris,
yes.
where
Yes.
Aaron Rodgers. And this was about Kaepernick, that it was never about the flag. Do you remember that?
Yep.
He stood up and he said it was never
right
about
on the money.
Never about the flag. This is what this was about. He didn't have to say anything. Is that his fight? He didn't.
Right.
But he felt compelled, and some people didn't like it. You know what I mean? So I always say there's both sides. There's no doubt.
It's your turn to comment, if you want to, on this Caitlin Clark situation where, she's being called on to speak out about some issues. Your thoughts?
All right. Mark in Sacramento, you're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Mark?
What's going on, gentlemen? How you guys doing today?
Great. How are you,
bro? How are you?
Doing good. This is a real tricky topic for people to talk about, because you guys in the street, they'll come after you and try to cancel you guys. So you have to be careful what you say, and so are the athletes. But what they want her to speak on, Chris, you touched on it. There's touchy subjects inside the WNBA that you have to be careful with. A lot of them are racial. A lot of them have something to do with, like you say, sexuality, LBGT, and stuff's going on. And they want her to step across that line, and she's a Christian white woman who has a boyfriend. I'm going to say it. That's tough for her to do, and they're trying to force her to be advocates on the other side. Sometimes you can't force somebody, like you said, Chris. You pick what you want to stick your neck out in, and some things you just don't. You can't win that one. She's not going to win that one.
But she can't be asked to tackle everything. There are reasons and stuff. If I want to say something about something that is important or dear to me, you know what I mean, or I feel, Chris, compelled. But I'm not going to sit up here every day and pick something up every day. It's just not going to work.
That's one reason, Mark and Rob, that sports has been able to bring together these different cultures and races and groups of people, unlike any other institution in our society, because ultimately it's about the sports. Now, athletes have used it, thankfully, to speak out at times, but at the end of the day, you have to remember, it is ultimately about the sport. And so that's where, if it becomes too about advocacy one way or the other, then that can, hurt the sport, so to speak. So
thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.
And Rob, that woman I mentioned that retired from the WNBA was Candace Wiggins. She played at Stanford, and she said she was targeted for harassment during her 8-year WNBA career because she was heterosexual. So
yeah,
that's
I'm sure she's the only heterosexual woman in the WNBA.
No.
I'm just surprised that if that was the case with her,
I mean,
how did we not hear anybody else?
We did hear about.
I'm just saying other people. I'm just saying other people.
She referred to it. Now I gotta believe. I'm sure this was an overstatement. You know, she quoted. You know, it was 98% gay, but I'm sure that's an overstatement.
Okay.
But anyway, that's what she said.
Alex in Florida, you're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Alex?
What's good, fellas? How y'all doing?
Doing good.
Good, man. How are you?
Good. Listen, like y'all have said it. The lady is. I don't even say lady. I'm 50 years old. She's 22 years old.
Right.
You know what I mean? She
right.
There's no way in the world she has a view on everything, and you know what I mean. Let her grow up. Let her. You know what I mean? If they now, the question, I like her response. The first response was very empty and zero because maybe that's what it is. Who knows? But the chick is 22 years old. What she went behind.
She may not have even known all the stuff that was being put out there.
Yeah, Chris, I believe that. I believe that.
Yeah, because I didn't even know about a lot of it. You know,
that's not to say that she's not ignorant or that she's ignorant on stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because the second statement, you know what I mean? Maybe, like you said, maybe somebody informed her this is what's being said, whatever the case may be. And her second statement was across the board, kind of what you want to hear from somebody that how Mike used to be, very, you know what I mean, very
vanilla, so to speak. Right.
What I want to say when I want to say it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And let her live her life, man. You know what I mean?
No doubt.
That's all I'm saying. She's 22. Let her live her life.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it. Randy in New Orleans, you're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Randy?
What's going on, Chris and Rob? How y'all feeling on
Doing
this?
good. How are you?
Brother?
Good. Just quickly, I wanted to say, I don't feel like she has to speak to this because how do we even know if she is aware of the things that are being said, right? I mean, I wouldn't blame Caitlin for not speaking about things that she's not fully informed about because we have too many athletes, in my opinion, that speak to things that they are misinformed about. You know, just because she's famous and just because she can hoop doesn't mean that she has to speak to every situation that she's probably not 100% informed about. And let me just say this before I close, fellas. I'll close with this. Like Chris said, what if she's outspoken about issues that the WNBA is for and she's against them?
Right.
You know, they wouldn't like that. You know,
Right.
they would tell her that they would tell her that it's her white privilege. She needs to just hoop and just be what it is.
Shut up and dribble. They would say shut up and dribble.
God bless
All
you.
right. Yep. You want one more, Rob?
Yeah, Will in Wisconsin. You're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Will?
What's going on, gentlemen? Happy Friday to you guys. And just real quickly, sometimes when you're in the public eye, like Caitlin is now, I know, thrust into it or whatever, but, sometimes greatness, people are born into it. Sometimes it's thrust upon them. And so now she is in this era of openness and expression for athletes. So it's like, hey, you're navigating this now. This isn't the 80s. You're playing now. So, yeah, you're going to have to a little bit take on a little bit more here. Maybe not fairly, but you are in that space now. So I think as she grows, she does have a responsibility to chime in on issues that do affect women the same way we kind of looked at Jordan, in hindsight saying, hey, we do wish you would have had a little bit more. She's being prodded, hey, can you give us more?
Right.
That's fair.
Here we go.
Thanks, Will.